I'm Steve Kirby. I run a music label called Industrial Coast. We've been doing that for 6 years. We're in our 7th year now. We then started gig promotion back end of 2022, and since 2023 up to now, we've had Arts Council funding for those shows that called them Monday Night in Middlesbrough. It's experimental music of international headline artists, and then generally supported by multi-genre local artists. So that could be sound, could be filmmakers, spoken word, performance pieces. So we're now into the 3rd year of running that. And where you are now is Unit 41, and we took this on as primarily an exhibition space in January of this year, and that's through Creative Factory Middlesbrough. First exhibition we did was a Monday Night in Middlesbrough, which was a photography exhibition by Rachel Deacon, a local artist, and that was a documentation of our first full year's programme of gigs. So that was 2023, the shows that we put on in town. That ran through middle of January into the middle of Feb, and was then quickly followed by this one that you can see, which is rather more conceptual. And it's a fairly internationally renowned artist called Richie Culver, who's originally from Hull, based in London now. And quite a coup to get Richie. He's worked with the label before he's released with us, and he's done a couple of performances for us. He played at Solid Ground, the B&M shop, which was part of an auxiliary exhibition. He did a spoken word piece for us there. So this has ran for this past month. Yeah, so like I say, Industrial Coast was originally set up. The first tape we released, it's primarily a cassette label. We do some vinyl, but the cost of vinyl production is prohibitive for a small label like ourselves. So it's mostly cassettes, short-run cassettes. It's been on like I say, the first release was December 2018. Again, it's mostly, some people say it's a noise label. It's mostly, I don't like the term noise. It's primarily experimental music, experimental electronic music. So it can be, we've released techno, we've released drone, we've released ambient, we have released noise, various different genres. I guess the running theme through it is that it's generally 90% of it, 95% of it would be electronics. There's very little, we don't release many bands as such. It's individual artists with a set of lots of different strange kit on the table is always what we have a tendency to release. And so that's really sort of informed everything else we've done. So the gigs, the Monday Night in Middlesbrough gigs, they came through the links to the label, and then as we've progressed and with Arts Council funding, I think the idea is that you can't be seen to be sort of standing still. If you go for funding again, it's like, okay, what are you doing differently? How is it getting bigger? How are you growing? And so the profile of the artists involved has sort of risen as we go along, and so it's becoming more. I guess it's becoming more detached from the label, but still, I suppose from a sound perspective, it's still the same sort of thing. But I'm now having to deal with agents and all that sort of stuff, rather than just sending people direct messages on Instagram saying, "Do you want to play in Middlesbrough?" Yeah, great. And then that has then. The Monday Night in Middlesbrough gigs has then sort of fed into here. So again, the first exhibition, Rachel's work, was photography from the shows. Richie has played as part of that series and was released with the label, so that's how I know Richie Culver. That's why we've got this exhibition. There's future exhibitions where there'll be a couple of labels that we work with. There's a label called Deathbed Tapes, which is a US label, so they're going to do something. There's a noise artist, American guy, but he lives in Japan, and he makes, as well as his music, he does. He designs graphic T-shirts based around extreme Japanese wrestling. So the exhibition will be about extreme Japanese wrestling. So it's all linked in to the sort of, there's links. That's who I'm putting on as exhibitions. It's people who I know through the label. So there's sort of like a thread runs through the whole thing. I mean, I think from a label perspective, the label's probably pretty much is at a level that it's not going to go beyond, just purely because of the sort of music that we deal with. That it will continue to tick over as we are. With the shows, that's always just a case of trying to progress, trying to put bigger things on, trying to put possibly more accessible things on. And then here, I guess it's how long can we last in terms of being in the space. So hopefully that we won't be kicked out anytime soon. But then just looking at one, how can we begin to actually make it a viable long-term proposition from a financial perspective. Could it be that we could start running this while paying rent? Could we cover the rent by generating income through the unit? And then also, being able to program not just exhibitions, but what else can we do with the space in terms of label, and the gigs have always been quite heavily community involvement, and sort of we've done lots of fundraisers and things for like social issues, and so trying to make it a space that's available for local artists, and what can we provide in terms of what is it the local artists want, what do they want from it, and it's not just necessarily putting an exhibition on. So we're talking about having social evenings, but so a couple of those, but they've been very sort of open-ended and loose, and it's like, what would people like in terms of maybe a more directed evening? So it could be a photography group or whatever. What's going to bring people in, and what is it that people would want to use the space for? So we're very open to that. As you can see, it's unusual. A lot of it will just be stuff on walls. Obviously, there's an installation here. For most of the things, we'll be able to have evening events, even while there's exhibitions on. So it's really reaching out to the community, the artistic community, and saying, what do you want from a space? What is it you need from a space? What doesn't town provide you with at the moment?